venues are like not much different from fashion or music. People go to them because it says something about who they are. So I think understanding who you are, who you're serving, and building that community.
So the life cycle of a London club can be quite short sometimes. But if staying open is any kind of measure of success, then obviously Fabric is doing that pretty well, with barring maybe a couple of sort of temporary blips more recently, I guess. What are the things then that have enabled Fabric to carry on for best part of 25 years?
I think the one word that goes with Fabric is actually resilience. We're such a resilient club. We've been through about 3 closures, 2 sort of changes, management changes, and we still kind of come back fighting. So I think it's down to just sort of always staying true to ourselves, I think, and just always keeping that authenticity and being able to very much so our community. We've managed to build a really strong community that started off local, but then now is global. And, we couldn't have kept going without all those people. When we closed down, we would never have been reopened if it hadn't been for the support of the people. And that's just what's kept us, I think that's what keeps us going. There's always a core person, like-minded people that come to the club, and then they help that kind of chain of event, to keep us going and keep us current. And I think as well, it's when you're kind of we like all the other clubs here that are being represented, we're all kind of platforms for the underground, and so that's always evolving, and so that keeps us fresh and keeps us evolving. We like to support new artists, but we also like to support our current and established artists, and I think by having that formula, that's what keeps us always current and always keeps us going. We don't just get stuck in the past. We always looking for the new person of the future as well. So was that. It's really hard to sort of think what it is that's kept us going. But yeah, I think those kind of qualities are just being authentic, being original, and sticking to your plan and your your remit. What we knew who we were, and we didn't really try to be anything above that. We've always tried to sort of stick to our guns and support. So I think people trust us, they trust us as a brand. They know we're going to deliver them quality and passion, and we we do deliver things with attention to detail. So I think that's a lot of it. It's hard to sort of put your finger on something like that, but yeah, I think something like that.
Next one is sort of for all of you, but I think might start with Kit. This is more just a sort of business question in a sense. So it sort of occurs to me that opening a club is maybe the kind of business venture that might attract someone or a group of people who don't necessarily have tons and tons of knowledge or experience running that type of business, or maybe even any business. And they might end up kind of learning the ropes as they go, potentially at quite a great cost to themselves. So what is maybe the most important lesson that you have learned from running a nightclub in that sense, sort of finance, licensing, operations, the kind of difficult behind the scenes stuff? I'm not actually the owner of the club, but I've been through many of these sorts of licensing, trying to apply for licenses, all of that stuff. We actually started with very little and still have quite minimal investment. We are, like you say, no thrills, empty warehouse, decent system. But I think the most important thing is to focus on your content ultimately, and focus on what it is that you are doing and what you're providing, basically. Venues are not much different from fashion or music. People go to them because it says something about who they are. So I think understanding who you are, who you're serving, and building that community, because ultimately, it's the promoters and the artists that fill out the venue, and that's the most important thing that you need to hit. So if you can create consistency there, and you can, get the best promoters, get the best artists, get the best things for whatever it is that you want to do, your club will ultimately remain sort of successful and able to operate, really. Much like Fabric probably did at the beginning and still does to a certain degree,
basically.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like not being afraid to make mistakes, because it will happen. And I remember when I started Body Movements, there was just so much that I was, any little, I guess, bit of criticism or feedback we got, I would take it very personally. And now at a point where I actually take it, I want to hear it. And making those mistakes are just natural and human. And, especially when you're doing something that you haven't done before, I think you kind of just need to be willing to have knockbacks. And like you said, resilience is the only thing, I think, especially in like the London club scene, that's gonna get you through. And it's just how much you're committed to it. And if you're really committed to it, you have to be prepared to make mistakes, fuck it up sometimes, but just keep going and do it better. And when people see that you've genuinely taken on, what the feedback is and implemented and addressed those things, I think that actually you come back stronger and people really respect what you do there. So that's definitely something that I've learned from, running the festival and other shows and whatnot.
Yeah, I'd just like to repeat, it's all about sort of resilience. You're going to go through tough times. You are going to, make mistakes and you just got to get over them and go through the next challenge, and they'll keep coming. We've been through some mad times over the last few years. Who knew there was going to be a pandemic came out of nowhere, and you just have to, think about a problem, think of a way around it and move forward.
You've had two venues. The Cause's first venue in Tottenham Hale was always meant to be temporary, right? You had like a special type of licensing deal with the council, which is maybe becoming a bit more common now.
That's a misconception.
Is it?
We didn't have any sort of licensing deal with the council. That was meanwhile. It was directly through the developers that worked with an intermediary place, sort of call creative stuff into empty buildings. So they just gave us a year contract on it, and it rolled on and on. Because we only had a year contract, we went to the council, we applied for a full premises license. They were of the understanding that it would only go a certain amount of time, but there was no kind of special kind of meanwhile license. It's, they just kind of didn't give us too much hassle because they were under-resourced and they weren't getting any complaints. So luckily, I don't know how. They're just, and then it just went on. And after about three years, they went, oh, hang on, you've got this big club and there's flats getting built next door. So,
yeah. That obviously ended. You found a new site, a new one in Silvertown. You've kind of had to start again in that sense. How do you retain the spirit of the cause, but also move it physically?
It's been really challenging, to be honest, because we had quite a gap. We shut the original site. We thought we had another premises which we were going to hopefully move to, and then that fell through. So we spent about 6 months just keeping all our staff employed, trying to find them stuff to do, just to try and keep the machine kind of rolling and try and, because if we were to start again with literally nobody and then re-employing everybody again, it would be a nightmare. So we did a festival, which we lost loads of money on, but it was really good for keeping the community spirit together. In hindsight, that was pretty important that, we kind of kept that family
do another
vibe.
One?
I don't think I've got the energy, to be honest. Potentially, I keep getting asked, but I just don't have it in me to do a load of work and lose money at the moment. Basically, I've got a lot on my plate. So, but maybe I do silly things every now and again. So, so then we eventually got the space, and it was a similar sort of thing where we had to go into it. It was the same landlord, or the same sort of intermediary company which deals with taking over buildings of developers, was the same as our original site, who I'm quite friendly with, and he said he was very nervous to let us move into that space, but he finally sort of said yes when we were literally like, what are we going to do? But the condition was that we had to go into it and do some test events, and then from that point we kind of took over different rooms inside, which was quite similar to our original story. So it was, we're building it and making it up as we went along, and people could kind of see that it was still DIY. A lot of the dynamics have changed in terms of, the building's already used for workspace. So we have to convert it back to being workspace on a Monday morning. So we don't really shut the doors like we did at the last place and could clean up on Monday or But yeah, we've kind of, we've all still done it together with a group of people, and it's the same team that we've had that have, continually building stuff, which has sort of helped filter through to the vibe. And we've also just kept the sort of ethos of, working with people and maintaining those relationships with promoters we've worked with and growing the family, as it were.